And today I'm going to be breaking down the field with Jarrod Horak from the runawayhorse.com. We'll be going over the top contenders, the pace analysis, and talking briefly about the rich history of this race. Make sure you stick around to the end to hear Jarrod and my picks and how we're going to play the race. And if you like sharp analysis, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Haskell Stakes is coming up this Saturday. It's a $1 million Grade 1 race on the dirt. It has a lot of history to this race. One of my favorite Haskell memories was Go Rocket Ride, coming back to beat Mage there. I always had a special place for him, and I just thought he was going to run a big race. I had the Exacta, and that was probably my favorite Haskell, although there was so many to talk about. You know, we had a filly winning. We had some disasters a couple of years ago with Hot Rod Charlie when he clipped heels with Mandaloon or a Midnight Bourbon. So many great Haskell races. What's your favorite race from the memory from the Haskell?
One of my favorites is horses that I actually, because the Preakness is my hometown race. And so I like to play the horses that I played in the Preakness in the Haskell, and over the years I've had success. Now, going way back when I first started following racing, a Deputed Testimony in 1983, he was my Preakness horse that year, and he was the local Maryland horse, and he upset the field, and then he also won the Haskell. But some of my other favorites, Point Given, he was a horse that I was a big fan of for trainer Bob Baffert, and he won the Preakness and the Haskell. Looking at Lucky, another one that I played in the Kentucky Derby, and then he didn't win that, but then I played him back in the Preakness and then the Haskell. An Exaggerator for trainer Keith DeSarmo was one in 2016 that I played in the Preakness and the Haskell. And then Good Magic, I played him in the Preakness. He didn't win the Preakness that year, but he ended up bouncing back and winning the Haskell Stakes in 2018.
Yeah, he finally got his due. Well, he had a tough horse that he had to follow through that Kentucky Derby trail, the Triple Crown season, and Justify. But once he got away from Justify, Good Magic really showed his magic there at the Haskell.
Yeah, that was nice to see. You're right. With Justify, he was second behind that one in the Kentucky Derby, and then in the Preakness, he was dueling with Justify, and he missed by a half length, I think, finishing fourth. It was a real battle there. And Bravazzo for trainer D. Wayne Lucas ended up finishing second that day behind Justify. And I did have the trifecta in the Preakness that year. But Good Magic, once he was able to get away from Justify, was able to get his Grade 1 win there.
Yeah. Well, do we have a case of that this year where you have a horse like Journalism who won the Preakness and maybe it's just a cut above the rest of these horses here, and even if the other horses run their best, that he's the top pick? Or do you think there might be some other horses in this field that maybe could upset Journalism?
Well, he's definitely the most likely winner, and he's trying to become the sixth horse to win the Preakness and Haskell. A Point Given, Big Brown, Rachel Alexandra, Looking at Lucky, and Triple Crown winner American Pharaoh. They all won the Preakness and Haskell. And now Journalism's going to try to do the same thing. The key with Journalism, I think, obviously, is this is his sixth start of the year, and he's had a lot of traveling, going from California to Kentucky to Maryland to New York, back to California. Now he's in New Jersey. So he's been very busy this year, but he just continues to run his race no matter what. And with no sovereignty in here, your Derby and Belmont winner, with him not in here, Journalism certainly is the most likely winner and the classiest horse on paper.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think if he runs back to his form, even his worst buyers are better than others in here top. I think that he will win this. But there are some other horses in here that are classy and are improving, some lightly raced horses. Let's talk about Gosger. Now, Gosker's one that I think could run a big race here. I know his trainer, Brendan Walsh, and his jockey, Louis Saez, after that Preakness, said that they were proud of the horse, even though he got chopped down there by the amazing run at the end by Journalism, but that they thought that the horse was going to improve. And I put a lot of weight into that. What do you think about Gosker's chances?
Yeah, he's got a good shot, too, because he's so lightly raced that you mentioned. 4 starts, 2 wins in 2 seconds, and he almost defeated Journalism in the Preakness, but he did get a perfect trip. He had that outside post in the 9-horse field. He was tracking from second. He was able to take over the lead, and Journalism in the stretch got in all of that trouble on the inside with Clever Again, goal-oriented, and Journalism in a boxing match, basically. And Journalism was able to fight his way through all of that and run down Gosger, who had a 5-length lead in the stretch. So you got to figure if he couldn't beat him with that kind of trip, journalism's probably going to have to get in trouble again for Gosger to win. But obviously, lightly raced, on the improve. His speed ratings are rising. He's got tactical speed, good connections. He should run a quality race.
Yeah, I agree with you. Maybe it's just a case that journalism doesn't run his best race. He's one of those horses that seems to be able to run off short rest and keeps continuing to put up good races. But if he doesn't run his best race, you mentioned the Preakness there, how he ran down Gosger after all that trouble. He kind of seems to find trouble. I've watched him a couple times out here at Santa Anita, and I remember, I believe it was the San Felipe, where he kind of got checked and shuffled back before rallying for the victory. And then he kind of had a stumble. He seems like he always has a little something going on, but then just ends up grinding away for the win unless he's facing sovereignty.
Yeah, that was the Santa Anita Derby that he got in that trouble, and it was Barn, a Bob Beffer trainee, that had him hemmed in, and he was. I think the two races that he got in the most trouble was the Santa Anita Derby, and then also the Preakness Stakes, and he had inner posts in both of those. I think being down on the inside has cost him trouble before, and I wouldn't be surprised down on the inside maybe again if he's going to get in trouble, because two of his main rivals you have towards the outside with Gosger should work out a clean trip, and then goal-oriented as well. Two horses that ran in the Preakness Stakes, and they should both have clean trips from outer posts. And it's possible if journalism doesn't have the cleanest trip, gets down on the inside, maybe he just has to wait a little while, and they get the jump on him. Maybe one of those horses could pull off the upset.
Yeah, I agree. Now, a horse that isn't quite as lightly raced, Burnham Square, we've seen his talent in the bluegrass. He had to go 5 wide in that one and came around and chased East Avenue down. And then we saw him last out kind of get, in the Kentucky Derby, he had an excuse like a lot of horses. He got beat up and shuffled back, and he still rallied. He got 6th place. It wasn't embarrassing. He picked up a lot of horses late, but a lot of horses were just dropping anchor and going the other way at that time. But he came back in the Matt win there and got second. He kind of chased East Avenue around. East Avenue didn't have a lot of pressure on the lead. He kind of had a comfortable lead. Kind of did what Bob Baffert likes to do: get ahead, slow down the fractions a little bit, and then you have enough in the tank to turn the tables like he did on him in the bluegrass. What do you think about Burnham Square? He's been right around in the mid 90s for his buyers. Any chance that he improves or picks up a piece or wins this one?
I think to hit the board, certainly he's a horse that you can look at. It's not impossible that he would win. A scenario that would allow him to win would most likely be a pace meltdown, kind of like the bluegrass, where the bluegrass, they had a fast pace there, and he came from 11 lengths back, and he just got up at the end to win by a nose at 4-1 odds. In the Kentucky Derby, seemed a little closer to the pace than I would have thought he would have been. Didn't, like you said, didn't have the greatest trip, and he ended up finishing 6th of 19. And then in the Matt win, 4-horse field, East Avenue controlling the pace. That's not the kind of scenario that Burnham Square is going to excel at, but he still ran a good race. He only lost by a half length. Most likely that was just a means to an end. They wanted to run him after the Derby to get him to this Grade 1 race, and the extra distance definitely helps him. He's 1 for 1. He's a Grade 1 winner at this distance, and if the pace does heat up, he'll be finishing.
And we're talking about a lot of the horses that we think could hit the board or possibly win. There's a few horses in here that I don't think have much of a chance, but could be very interesting in the pace. You have a horse like Bracket Buster that might want to get out in front. I could see a scenario where the pace does get pretty hot. How do you feel it's going to go?
Yeah, there is a scenario where that does play out, because if Bracket Buster does go, you have a Wild and Crazy Night. He could go. Gosker's probably going to be tracking the pace, but Kentucky Outlaw is another one. It's interesting that 3 of the longer shots are going to be the 3 horses that could be the best speed horses. So maybe looking for horses behind them, like a Gosger or a goal-oriented, that are most likely going to try to get the first run, or possibly if those long shots don't really go, and maybe one of those horses can get out there and set the pace. But the most likely scenario is that those long shots will be mixing it up early, and those trackers like goal-oriented and Gosger, and then you're going to have journalism probably towards the inside and right behind those horses. So it'll be an interesting chess match going on.
That's right. And all those horses that you just mentioned there that'll be behind the leaders have shown versatility. I like how Burnham Square's shown some versatility. He could sit closer to the pace if it was slow, or sit more off if it was quick. And I also think that goal oriented could do the same. He could, if the pace is kind of slow, he could sit right up on there and press it. But if they want to take off, I think he's tactical enough, even though he's so lightly raced, that he could sit back and just wait for a little bit of a meltdown. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, because he is versatile. In his debut, he rallied from sixth in a 7-horse field to win. And then second time out, Flavien Prat got aboard and he was aggressive. He took him right out there, dueled early, and was able to take over and hold on by 3/4 of a length. And then in the Preakness, down from the inside post, he was comfortable tracking the pace there. And then he was uncomfortable in the stretch. But prior to that, he was sitting a good inner tactical trip. But now from the outside post, Pratt's going to have options. If those long shots don't go, or if he thinks he can just go quicker than those long shots, maybe he just tries to do what he did second time out when he rode them and just tries to go right to the front and put those long shots away and get a jump on journalism. We'll have to see how all of it plays out, but he does have options from that outside post.
Before we get into our top picks and betting selections, I give out 2 free picks every Friday and a quick pick handicapping worksheet designed to help you find the best horse in any race. Click the link in the description and I'll get you instant access to the sheet. Let's go ahead and talk about who we think is going to win the race and how it plays out. I'm going to go with journalism here. I'm going to use him in all my bets. I think he's the best by far. He's training fine. I saw him work out. He looks good. I don't think that Michael McCarthy and his connections would put him in this spot if they didn't truly believe that he was ready to fire. And look, he's one of these horses that's run off short rest. So I think he's freshened up a little bit and he's going to be ready to run a big race in the Haskell. I'm going to use him over Gosger. I like Gosger a lot. I think he's improving. He's lightly raced. Brendan Walsh was really talking high about him. And he's one of those trainers that just doesn't blow smoke. When he says a horse is improving or he thinks that something's good going to happen with a horse, it tends to work out. So I'm going to go with Gosger in second. I do like goal oriented. I think he's going to be a little bit over bet. He has Bob Baffert training, who's got the most Haskell wins. He has Flavien Prat riding, and he's run some bullet work. So he's going to get a lot of play. And I just think he's a cut below Gosger, who beat him handedly in the Preakness. Even before that trouble, that was not in question. So I think they're going to continue on the same path. Journalism's going to win, and Gosger is going to come in second, and that's how I'm going to play it. How do you see this one playing out, Jarrod?
Thanks for sharing your picks, Tom. Journalism does seem like he's going to be a tough customer in this event, but I'm going to try to beat him with goal-oriented. Now, I'm not way against journalism by any stretch of the imagination. He was my top pick in the Santa Anita Derby in all 3 Triple Crown Series races, and he ran well in all of those races and is the most likely winner of the Haskell, especially with Sovereignty not in there. Now, I am a bit concerned about all of journalism's races and traveling this year, and if he runs into any sort of trouble down on the inside or is not quite at his best, a horse like Goal Oriented might be able to jump up and bite him. Now, Goal Oriented is making his 4th career start on Saturday, and he is all upside for 9-time Haskell winning trainer Bob Baffert. He's versatile, and you just know that Flavien Prat will give him every chance to succeed from the outside post. His recent workouts have been fast and visually pleasing, and he seems to be maturing nicely this year. Now, Journalism did beat him handily in the Preakness, but that was just his 3rd lifetime start, and he was returning in 2 weeks. And he has much better race spacing this time, and he might give the Preakness hero a run for his money in this event. So I'm going to make a win bet on Goal Oriented and box him in the Exacta with Journalism, and my top 4 Haskell picks, 8, 2, 4, and 6. And I hope you enjoyed this special look at the Haskell, and thanks again to Tom from TracksideProfits for joining me in this video preview.